For the past 6 months, Russia has been trying to manipulate the topic of biological laboratories allegedly located on the territory of Ukraine, where weapons are being developed for use against the Russian Federation.
Our military became aware of the details of the UP4 project, which was implemented in the laboratories of Kyiv, Kharkiv and Odessa. Its purpose is to study the possibilities of the spread of especially dangerous infections through migratory birds. Bats have been considered as potential carriers of biological weapons agents.
This statement was voiced by the representative of Russia to the UN in April, and the world perceived it as another lie. Now, Russia has prepared yet another accusation against Ukraine, this time for an international conference taking place in Geneva. They will again try to convince the world that Ukraine, with the support of the United States, plans to destroy the Russians with biological weapons.
We are very concerned about the revealed information that the Pentagon has created several dozen military biological laboratories on Ukrainian territory. As for the fact that they have already used this weapon, I have no data. But there is practically no doubt that these were absolutely not peaceful experiments, but experiments aimed at creating biological weapons, so to speak, ethnically oriented. Sergei Lavrov, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Russia, during a press conference in Antalya.
According to experts from the International Center for Counteracting Russian Propaganda, in this way Moscow is trying to convince its audience that Russia is conducting a so-called special operation not against Ukraine, but is at war with the United States. This is one way to distract Russians from domestic economic problems.
They need to constantly feed the idea that the United States is at war. At what are the most important threats that the United States poses to Russia? Stories with geese, doves and bats are a story for their international consumption. On such simple things, they think that people will get it faster.
Amid the daily shelling of peaceful Ukrainian cities by the Russian army and the death of hundreds of civilians, statements about biological laboratories gave rise to a lot of ironic reactions from the Ukrainians themselves. When communicating with Russian prisoners of war, it turned out that Russian propaganda is spreading myths among its soldiers.
What can you say about Ukrainian fighting geese? I saw them. Come on. We stood there digging a trench, and Vitalik, one of the scouts, said, "Ducks fly there. Go turn away, they make a flyover."
The Ministry of Health of Ukraine states that all laboratories in the country are open for inspections by international experts. The existence of special laboratories for the creation of biological weapons is out of the question.
Most likely they mean laboratories that were built under an agreement between the governments of Ukraine and the United States. These are 8 laboratory centers based on the laboratory of the Ministry of Health of Ukraine. They are a network of public health laboratories. A great example is when there was a COVID-19 pandemic. Laboratory centers performed thousands of studies to confirm, refute and identify the disease. Our labs are open to international experts and partner reviews. We have nothing to hide or keep silent. Mikhailo Stuzhuk, state expert of the Directorate of Public Health of the Ministry of Health of Ukraine, in an interview with the Ukrainian TV channel.
The New York Times writes that Russia's accusations against Ukraine began to spread in the news of those countries that fell into the field of diplomatic confrontations between the United States, Russia and China. It is about the countries of Africa and the Middle East.
It is rather pressure on the United States and an attempt to find some kind of global threat in which the United States can be presented as a global evil and a threat to all mankind, to get out of the diplomatic dead end and motivate the world to start some kind of dialogue with them.
Earlier, the governments of 10 countries, including the United States, Armenia, Georgia and Ukraine, released a joint statement refuting the Kremlin's propaganda about the development of biological weapons in Ukraine. It confirms that no one takes the Kremlin's disinformation about American biological laboratories in Ukraine seriously, except for the Russians themselves.
Our government have partnered openly and transparently through the Biological Threat Reduction Program, which is a part of the U.S. Department of Defense Cooperative Threat Reduction Program. These partnerships are devoted exclusively to peaceful purposes. They have nothing to do with weapons. From a post on the U.S. Department of State website.
At the same time, UK Ministry of Defense believes that with such accusations against Ukraine and amid military mistakes at the front, Russia can cover up its plans to use biological or chemical weapons on the territory of Ukraine. Reported by Serhiy Kulias, Victoria Sinko, UATV News.